out based on performance. So that's something.
Whoa.
But no, it's a group that's taking themselves very seriously. I think last Thursday, last time we were with you all, it was a kind of distasteful thing to watch. It was hard.
It was tough.
It was ugly.
We were on location last week, and it was not. It was
maybe
fun
not
to
be on
there,
location.
but it was not. When you want to be on location, you want wins. You want to be celebrating in bars, and we didn't get a whole lot of celebrating in bars with our friends last time this team was on the field.
No, we did not. But as far as the quarterback is concerned, I think Marcus last year played really well when he was thrust into duty. But I will say this, and I'm not giving away state secrets when I say it. Being the starter versus being a guy that's plug and play is way different.
Way different.
The Raider defense has been preparing for Marcus Mariota. I know Pete came out and said, we're preparing for Jaden. You're preparing for both.
You're preparing for both.
It's just the way that you do it. Pete's just doing some games and shit. But we'll talk about it in our keys to the game and as well as our like key players that we're going to put on the spotlight. But you know who I get most excited for when I see Marcus Mariota in the lineup? It's one, Scarence Terrence.
I was going to say the exact same thing. There's going to be some changes offensively with Mariota in the lineup, and we're going to hit it from every single angle. Kevin Sheen is going to join us in 30 minutes here. We got our keys coming up in 15. But the biggest beneficiary of Marcus Mariota is going to be Terry McLaurin, because Marcus Mariota, while I'm sure he has gotten reps this week, and there were periodic reps over the course of the offseason, although he wasn't towards the end of training camp, he wasn't as active as you would have liked because he was nursing an injury. He did not have the chemistry building session with Deebo Samuel the way that Jaden did.
Correct.
So he is going to be more comfortable with Terry McLaurin. I was talking with our producer, Ben Strober, before we started here, and I put this out on Twitter. You can get a Terry McLaurin anytime touchdown at plus 200. And I think he's going to be looking early and often for Terry today.
Yeah, and Terry should have the matchup. I know Marcus was really nice talking about it. We just heard it with Earl in the last segment of Countdown to Kick. Caillou Blue Kelly out there for the old Las Vegas Raiders. Couldn't beat out Manny Forbes and Benjamin St. Juste last year, so I'm not sweating it at all. Eric Stokes, the other outside corner for Vegas, guy formerly in Green Bay. Marcus was pretty complimentary of that secondary. I think the defense of the Raiders is actually decent. You held Vegas to 20 last week. You held New England to, 13 in the opener. So
they have not allowed a running back to go for 30 yards yet.
Wow.
Now it's only two games, and it's not like the Patriots are this run-heavy team.
Right. Sure.
The Chargers did have Justin Herbert go for 31.
Yeah.
Ooh. But they haven't allowed a running back to go for 30 yards. You need to have, especially with a backup quarterback in Marcus. And Mariota is different than a lot of backup quarterbacks across the NFL because he has legitimate starting experience, which some of these guys that we think are good backup quarterbacks do not have nearly the amount of experience that Mariota does. But you need to make his life a lot easier. I thought we talked about this on the postgame show after the Green Bay game, and that was the last time we saw this team. They did not do a good job establishing the run. It felt like it was all on Jaden in a way that it should not be in year number 2. That needs to be a point of emphasis today, whether it's Bill, McNichols. Obviously, having Eckler done for the year certainly sucks, but at the same time, he's not. I didn't think he was going to be like your primary runner anyway. He was more of like a catch out of the backfield kind of guy, and I'm expecting to see Chris Rodriguez today for the first time, and excited to see what he's going to look like for the first time today.
So we'd like to get you smarter here on the Burgundy and Gold pregame show.
According
to ESPN's run block win rate, Washington's second in the National Football League right now, yet the attempts just simply are not there right now for this group. But sort of to your point, your hand's kind of being forced right now. You have to run the football. There's no Jaden Daniels. You've got some shuffling going on along your offensive line, which we'll touch on here momentarily, but I think it's going to be huge. Last year for the season, Washington's run-pass balance was, 52-48 in terms of pass run. This year, they're 60-40 right out the gate. And I know it's only 2 games in, so the sample size isn't huge, but every metric says your offensive line at this point far better at run blocking than they are at pass blocking. And against Green Bay, everyone's talking about it, you got into a situation where you were kind of out-leveraged, and it had a lot to do with the play caller. I was shocked that he wasn't asked about his.
There's pressure on him today.
110%.
There's big time pressure on Cliff Kingsbury, the guy that is genius is overused here, but he's a very smart play caller, right? And last year we really praised some of the things he did, as you mentioned. It was the most balanced offense we have seen for a while, and last week was not that.
No, it was not that. And I think just hearing guys talk throughout the week, Zach Ertz did Debo Samuel's podcast. Debo's got a podcast, by the way. So we now have a player on our team that has his own podcast. It's actually cool. It's called Cleats and Conversation, I think is how it goes. Debo's pretty cool guy. He had Zach Ertz on this week. He had Terry on.
He did have Terry on
the week before, and Ertz was pretty adamant about the fact that, like, hey, we knew going into this one you couldn't get behind the sticks against a pass rush like Green Bay because Micah Parsons is on the other side. You'll give him the chance to tee off. I think it's going to be a similar conversation for today. You have to get your offensive linemen moving forward so you can influence these linebackers, make them think that run is coming, even if you got to dink it and dunk it over the top of their head. But for Mariota, maybe I'm crazy, Denton, but I've had this like eerie feeling that, and this is not any indictment on Jaden Daniels, this kind of just is what it is situation. I think 3 weeks into this thing, more time on task with folks. Maybe the offense gets kick-started today. It's against a group in Vegas, like you mentioned, that's pretty underrated to me through the first 2 weeks.
I think naturally the expectation, regardless of who's playing quarterback, knowing that Mariota is good, right? You had 10 days.
10 whole days.
So there better be some form of kickstarting, right? You have to understand, if you believe this team is a championship caliber team, and certainly inside the building, that is the belief. What happened in week number 2 was not the standard of what being a Commander is supposed to be in 2025.
Right.
So regardless, obviously it would be much better if Jaden was playing, but you know that they're going to key in on some things, and the standard has to be met today. Because if you have another game where you can't run the football, you're constantly behind the sticks, and then you're allowing a guy like Max Crosby, who's a top 5 defensive end in this league, to pin his ears back and go up against a rookie right tackle, my guess is it's going to be a lot of time with Max Crosby on that side, that puts your guys in a bad position. So I'm 100% with you. Like, I'm expecting this offense to look significantly better than the last time we saw them.
Yeah, they better, or else there are going to be some real question marks coming from folks like myself, you, our colleagues here at the Fan and 980. I mean, this is the whole thing about me and what was so tough about watching this group last week on offense. I get it. It's the Green Bay Packers. Great. They're not the 85 Bears, though, right? And when you consider the amount of resources that have been poured onto that side of the football, talking about the offense, this offseason in particular, going and getting Debo, getting Laramie Tunsil, you spent the first-round pick on Connolly. I just simply have higher expectations. You're not getting some baked-in excuse that, oh, it was a short week and so on and so forth. It was a short week for that group as well.
Right.
You simply didn't execute. Your game plan wasn't good enough. How much better are you going to be this afternoon?
Yeah, that was a championship-level defense in Green Bay, because I believe that. That's a championship-level defense.
For sure.
And it did not look like Washington was a championship-level offense, but that is why today is so crucial to get back on the right track. I'm curious as to see how the offensive line is going to look with the adjustment they made, swapping Allegretti for Andrew Wiley. I was under the assumption that we were going to see Andrew Wiley this week. I did not know where we were going to see him because of the Connerly stuff. And look, they're going to go with Connerly, baptism by fire, totally fine, right? If you're going to switch with Andrew Wiley, I just hope that Andrew Wiley can have some sort of positive impact playing next to Josh Connerly. That's going to be a big deal, because if it's the same issues that they had last week against another good defensive front, albeit no Christian Wilkins, which thank God. But I
got weird.
Yeah, he got really weird. He'd be licking Wiley's toes. But I'm expecting to see a much more a congruent group together, a group that fits significantly better on the field together.
It's going to be interesting to see. I think helping or taking Allegretti out of the lineup should help Josh Connolly as well, from the standpoint of just having a guy that's better at the position playing next to you. From a communication standpoint, though, it could be rocky to start, because I just don't think Connerly and Wiley have played next to each other a lot. When you think about, what's the most important thing when passing off stunts and so on and so forth, do you trust the guy next to you? I think that's going to be a big factor here. Nick Allegretti, though, a guy that, they brought him back, or he was under a 2-year deal. I just don't know if he's a starting lineman in the National Football League. 4th most pressures given up in the NFL by him through the first couple of weeks. But this is the shocker to me, and why I think running the football is so important. You can make the argument that 3 out of your 5 starting offensive linemen to start the year have been bad. Nick Allegretti tied for the 4th most pressures. Guess who's tied with him? The left guard, Brandon Coleman. So his transition in terms of pass pro hasn't been the best, but when you crunch the numbers in terms of this run block win rate, which we talked about earlier, Brandon Coleman 6th via ESPN's run block win rate. Josh Connolly 8th
Yeah.
via ESPN's run block win rate. Tunsil fourth. So they're doing well when they're moving forward. We got to get them going forward more.
Tunsil fourth.
Fourth. I thought he couldn't run block. That's what I was sold on.
Everyone told us, hey, he's really good at pass protection. He's kind of a dead man walking run blocking. If he's that for a group that is really analytic based, and this group is analytic based in a way that the previous regime wasn't, which is that they kind of understand what analytics are and they don't change it every single week the way Ron did. They're analytic based. Why are they not running the football? Like, that should be, if you guys are having success running the football, I would think that you would want to do it more frequently.
Maybe they left the analytics at the airport in Green Bay last week.
I still think they thought they were playing that game on Sunday last week. They're like, this is early. I didn't know what to expect. Kevin Sheen is going to join us in about 15 minutes, so you can expect a lot of insight from him. When we get back, keys to the game for Washington. What do the Commanders need to do differently from week number 2 to week number 3 to come away with a win? He's Leno Willingham. I'm Denton Day. It's the Burgundy and Gold pregame on 106.7 The Fan of the Team 980. It's the Burgundy Gold pregame show on 106.7 The Fan and the Team 980. I am Denton Day. He is Linnell Willingham. If you're not listening to us on radio, you can watch us on YouTube at both 106.7 The Fan and the Team 980. If you have a bold prediction for the game, I want you to tweet it to us at the Denton Day, at NELL_BTP. If you're watching on YouTube, you can drop it in the comments. We're going to read out your bold predictions in about 30 minutes. Kevin Sheen in 15 minutes. But, Linnell, it's time to get into some keys to the game here for Washington. What needs to go right for the Commanders to jump to 2-1 on the season? I got 3 of them. You got 3 of them. I'll let you go first.
Yeah. Can you make the Raiders one-dimensional? This is something that's probably going to be a key for me weekly. It feels like making that group one-dimensional. They're one of the worst rushing teams in the National Football League. I think they're dead last in ESPN's run block win rate metric. If you can make them one-dimensional, I think this pass rush should have the opportunity to be super impactful the way they were week 1 against the Giants. You're tied for the most pressures in the National Football League through 2 weeks. Dorrance Armstrong is going Kanye crazy right now. So can you give him more opportunities to rush the passer if you can? You saw it on Monday Night Football. Gino will give you a couple.
Maybe need some Michael Shea accountability.
Yeah.
And really there needs to be accountability because what was the calling card last year? It was how they give guys career performances.
Yeah.
I would prefer it if they do not give Ashton Genty a career performance in week number 3. Right now, his over-under for rushing yards is 56 and a hook. So it's not terrible, but Washington has had a history of doing the opposite to running backs. My key is very similar to yours, but on the other side of the football, I need Washington to establish the run. If you're going to win this game with a backup quarterback, you need to run the football. Even if it was Jaden Daniels, you need to run the football, and I'd prefer it if you do it with a running back. You have 3 guys that are available today, Wichikori, Krosky Merritt being now the running back 1 of this unit. And we've loved him as fans for the entirety of the offseason because he was different and really because he wasn't Brian Robinson. Well, now with Austin Eckler out, you need to give him the football. He played well against New York in that first game, but he needs to go less time with no carries because he went a quarter and a half on Thursday Night Football without touching the ball, put the ball in his hands. I don't know that he's great in terms of catching out of the backfield. I don't really care. I want him to line up in the backfield, and I want you to run the football with a new offensive line, get them moving downhill, and just, get momentum on offense. So I need them to run the football.
Got to protect this offensive line. I think that's the most important reason why I want them to come out and run the football. And the other one is this, then. Stay ahead of the chains.
Please.
We said it every week last year on the pregame show. What's the most important thing? What's the most important thing? It's staying ahead of the sticks. You were, one of the best teams in the NFL last year on third down. You're 27th on third down to start this year. And I know it's only 2 weeks, so it's kind of like the numbers are skewed. But for me, staying on schedule is huge, like you mentioned. My second key for Washington, though, can you generate some explosives in the pass game? That was a problem through the first 2 weeks. It was a problem weeks 12 through 18 last year when you were, towards the bottom of the league in terms of explosive pass percentage. So, right now you have the second fewest explosives in the National Football League through the air. You're getting some explosives on the ground. But can you help out this offense? Can you jumpstart this offense by getting the explosives so you don't have to go 15, 16 plays to score?
And that's my key number 2 because I think explosives come by the way of 17. You have to get Terry McLaurin involved. What happened the first 2 weeks of the season is unacceptable for a guy that is wide receiver 1 moving forward. On top of that, you have Marcus Mariota coming into play. Generally speaking, when a backup quarterback comes into play, they throw a lot to the number 1 wide receiver, and that is Terry McLaurin. He got the contract this offseason. He put up monster numbers last year. You need to get 17 involved. You have to throw him the football. You have to make it a priority to get him the football, but then also trusting him, get open. I thought he did a halfway decent job, getting open against Green Bay, and the offense just wasn't moving in his direction. You're going up against a far lesser secondary today. That Green Bay secondary is fantastic. And you're going up against a team in the Las Vegas Raiders on defense who are anything but fantastic in the secondary. You have to take advantage of that. And generating explosives with 17 opens the field up for everybody. Debo will get more frequently involved. Zach Ertz will get involved more. And then whoever they decide to have at wide receiver 3, not expecting Noah Brown to go today. So whoever they decide to put there, maybe that's Jalen Lane, and you get to see him a little bit more than just on a 4th and 4 with a slant, ISO, whatever, like we saw last week against Green Bay. I need explosives, though, and I need them to come from Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, to your point, his most targeted game last year was that Week 18 game against Dallas, and Marcus Mariota played most of that game.
Yeah.
So, to your point, backups are going to look for their number one. I just think you got to look for Terry, period. And remember, was it leading into that Titans game, Denton, and then Cliff spited us right off the rip by putting Terry on the left side or the right side?
Yeah, he was always lined up on one side, and then he finally moved him, and you're like, thank you.
For the first 2 weeks, it's been the exact same way. Can we please move our star wide receiver around? If I was Terry, like, if I'm being real, I'd be kind of frustrated. Like, I'm watching Justin Jefferson, I'm watching Jamar Chase, and how innovative their coordinators are in terms of finding different ways to get him the ball, getting him targets. You can throw him a screen. He can run behind the backfield just like Debo can. I don't know why Washington treats Terry this way. I thought last year was being petty and wasn't paying him, so maybe just not getting him involved.
Yeah, I don't know what it was.
But, like, dude, he's your best offensive weapon. Not even close. He's better than Debo. He's better than Ertz. He's better than your running backs. Get him the damn ball.
And it's funny, last year, so they do that whole bit for the first, 2.5 weeks of the season. He's only on the left side. What was the biggest play of the game, week number 3? He lines up on the right side. And Jaden finds him for that game-winning touchdown. Good things happen when you mix and match and move wide receivers around. Get a little bit of motion going on. Get Terry in some creative elements or some creative spots to be successful. I'm 100% with you there. All right, what's your third key?
Third key is kind of what I mentioned earlier. Can you stay ahead of the sticks? And, running the football is important just for establishing your physicality and trying to dominate the line of scrimmage. But the sole reason that I want to run the football is to stay ahead of the sticks. So someone in the chat, Mr. Andrew, types at us and says, I can just imagine them trying to establish the run. I can't imagine them trying to establish the run early because the Raiders' run defense is good. They get scared and start throwing more.
Here's my biggest fear.
It is a fear. And Denton, this is where we were like perplexed staring at each other last weekend, like, damn, what do we root for here? Because they're not running the football, but you saw the type of quick passing plays they were running to try and supplement your run game, and it's all about staying ahead of the sticks. If they cannot have the stupid penalties and things of that nature, I think they'll be fine. But I do want to see the run game get established because that's who you were last year.
And that's what worked so well last year. This is not a key for me, but it plays off of something you just said. If you're going to run screenplays, I'm not anti-screen. Yeah. If you're going to run screenplays, your wide receivers better win a damn block. Because the first 2 weeks of the season, guys are getting smoked. Yeah. And screenplays that maybe could have gone, not for touchdowns, but 6, 7, 8 yards, get yourself ahead of the chains, supplement the run game. They're getting blown up for a loss of 1. Maybe you're only getting a yard. Guys are just getting smoked at the point of attack on the outside. If you're going to run screenplays, you better have guys out there that know how to throw a block and can hold a block for Debo, Jalen Lane, Terry, whoever's on the receiving end of that screen, to break into the second level of the defense. It is so frustrating watching them. Hey, we're going to try a screen on 1st and 10, and because it doesn't work, because Chris Moore gets smoked, because they throw for whatever the reason is, they throw like Zach Ertz out there to block it. That's not his that's not his specialty. And then it's 2nd and 12, and you're like, well, that sucks. Now we have 2 consecutive passing plays here.
Andrew types in the chat, not Mr. Andrew. This is regular Andrew now. Stop calling screens. We don't have the athletes for it. What were we clamoring about when they traded for Tunsil and drafted the big kid, Josh Connolly? Screens. We can get our offensive linemen out on parade. They're running the wrong type of screens. We haven't seen a tunnel screen yet.
Right.
Get me Laramie Tunsil flying out and killing a linebacker, killing a corner. Get me Connolly building some confidence by knocking a safety's block off. Where are the tunnel screens? That's my question.
Tunnel screens, maybe a tight end slip to whether it's Ben Sinnott or can we get a yank off in the chat? Like, get a Colson yank off,
watching that
and
today.
Then you get to see your big guys moving downhill with your tight end. Like, something like that. Just throwing it out to the outside on the wide receiver screen hasn't been working.
Glad you brought up tight
end. My final key here, it's week number 3. For the love of all that is holy, can somebody force a turnover? I'm not going to be picky. I don't care how the turnover comes. I don't care if it results in a touchdown or if it's for a gain of no yards and you just turn the football over. Somebody force a damn turnover. Joe Witt has been preaching about turnovers. I have been preaching about turnovers. Look at all the athletes in the secondary. I want some of these guys to force something. And, outside of like the occasional Marshawn Lattimore, I think Sanderson's been pretty good. Yeah. Trey Amos has been very, very impressive in a small sample size. But somebody come away with a turnover. Please just get some momentum for your offense. Get a short field for your offense. I don't feel like I'm asking too much to say in week number 3, you should be able to have at least your first turnover of the season.
Not asking too much at all. I just want to be in position to force the turnovers. Felt like last week and you didn't have a shot.
No,
So
not at all. I mean, there was like one or two pass breakups, and you're like, hey, yay.
you did the thing.
You did the thing.
Yeah.
Can we do it just maybe just a little bit more? All right, when we get back, Kevin Sheen of the Team 980 is going to join us. I want to remind you, give us your bold predictions. Give them in the chat. If you're watching on YouTube, you can tweet us. We will read out some of your bold predictions after our conversation with Kevin. So that's coming up in about 20 minutes. But Sheen joins us next on the Burgundy Gold pregame show with Denton Dale and Willingham. Kevin Sheehan's going to join us in a moment here on the Burgundy Gold pregame show. Hold on to your seats, people. We just got Inactives released, And there's one big, large surprise on this list, Linnell. Brandon Coleman is inactive, and it's not for injury-related purposes, according to multiple sources. They're sitting Brandon Coleman for who knows why. That's a tough one to stomach. We didn't hear about this leading up to today. It didn't feel like, or it certainly wasn't a big story. And now the guy that was supposed to be a really good left guard is not going in the third week of the season.
Well, through the first couple of weeks, he hasn't been a very good left guard. If we're being honest about it, we gave you the pressure numbers earlier. Tied for fourth most pressures allowed in the National Football League. He's been good as a run blocker, but in pass pro, it's been work in progress. I'm stunned by the decision, though. Because it is non-injury related, it stuns me. That means I would assume it's going to be Chris Paul at left guard over Nick Allegretti. Chris Paul, a guy that's had a really good spring, really good summer, has been able to stay healthy. It was one of the first things I noticed out at OTAs, how trim his body was. Looks like he's going to get the start. That hasn't been confirmed, by the way. That
feels like something we're going to find out
together.
That's what I was
sniffing around. Yeah, that's what I was sniffing around thinking it's going to be Chris Paul, but we'll see.
We'll find out together when they take the field for the first time. Let's get to Kevin Sheen. He's the host of the Kevin Sheen Show at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday on the Team 980. Kevin, your reaction to no Brandon Coleman today as a coach's decision?
I mean, I'm hearing about it here for the first time, but I think they really like the way Chris Paul played, which, by the way, I think he did play pretty well. The interesting thing is I thought this was a day possibly for six offensive linemen, to sort of compensate for no Bates, right. Especially if they go 12 personnel and to put, Trent Scott in there. But, another sort of like, let's not congratulate each other on drafts until you've got 3 full years in the in the bank, because that was another from most of the fans, chess over checkers. What a brilliant pick, and it still might be because we've got more time. But I mean, Chris Paul. Doc said something to me like a few months ago. He's like, I just like him. They're going to have to find a spot for him. He keeps getting better and bigger and smarter and more experienced. But maybe that's it. I mean, that's the obvious replacement. There's no other. Yeah, he's going to replace.
I don't think you go back to Nick Allegretti, who has struggled as much as Coleman has in pass pro to start this year. But to your point, man, like it's interesting that they made this decision. He's been really good as a run blocker, Kevin, by all the metrics, but pass protection not so strong. You mentioned not having John Bates today. When you look at this Raiders tape, they got this kid in the middle, Lelu, that has just been hell on wheels, ball of butcher knives rolling downhill. When you have 2 new guards on the interior, how worried are you about the former 7th-round pick of the Colts?
We'll see. We're not at practice every day. We don't know what it looks like. They do. They've got a good sense of what happened last Thursday night. They're not playing a team anything remotely resembling the team they played last Thursday night defensively. And in fact, I mean, this should be a defense that they should be able to move the football against. They should be able to throw the ball against. So I don't know what it all means. I mean, this happens when you don't have concrete answers, and it starts with no Cosme. It then leads to Allegretti, and he's struggled just like Connerly Jr. has. Here's the one thing you gotta hope they've figured out, and again, I'm not going to say that we've figured it out, but I think the most obvious takeaway from the first 2 games is that Josh Connerly Jr. needs help. And whether that is sitting and being replaced by, say, Wiley, and then, we got a guard issue in terms of who's active, but, or it means we're not leaving him out there on Max Crosby one-on-one. I mean, that would be mean-spirited at this point to do that to him. So, got to protect the passer today. If they protect Mariota, they're going to be, unlike last Thursday night, there are going to be some open receivers.
Speaking of those open receivers, how often do you think Mariota is going to be looking in the direction of 17?
I would say that this has an opportunity to be his best day. Obviously, it would have been a much better day, I think, with Jaden, but Marcus can throw the football too. Marcus's accuracy over the years has been the one thing, especially under pressure. He'll get a little loose. He'll sail a few. But if he, if Marcus Mariota has a good Marcus Mariota day, 17's going to have a big day. Debo's going to have a big day. Ertz is going to have a big day. Who am I forgetting? I don't even know who the other receivers are going to be. Is Chris Moore up?
Chris Moore will be up, yep.
Yeah. So I think Moore is the guy that's going to get some of those snaps, even though, like some of the fans, I would like to see more McCaffrey. And I'd like to see McCaffrey targeted a bit more. I mean, Denton, I think, for about 9 straight weeks had McCaffrey on a touchdown prop bet last year.
He's a degenerate.
I've already placed it for today at 16-1. It's been 22 weeks in a row now.
16-1.
16-1.
Okay.
Coming in with jewelry.
God, I hope he catches a touchdown pass. Then you can pick up lunch next time.
Yeah. Good money here. We're joined right now by our pal Kevin Sheen right here on the Burgundy and Gold pregame show. You can check him out weekdays 10-1 on the Team 980. Kevin, on the defensive side of the football, Joe Witt spoke about eye discipline a lot this past Thursday, and his presser just wasn't good enough, and you got burned by Tucker Kraft, the tight end. How much or how confident, I guess, are you, Kevin, that will be improved today against Brock Bowers?
I am confident that the D line has a chance to really control the game similarly to what happened in the opener, because they're not a good offensive line. And they did have an injury, although I think he's up. I haven't seen the active. Their right guard, Jackson Powers Johnson. But anyway, what I was going to say is that I'm much more confident in a much better defensive day. But if they had trouble with Tucker Kraft, Brock Bowers is the best tight end, more likely than not. I think you'd win that debate 8 times out of 10, maybe 7 times out of 10 in the NFL. Now, he's been a little bit banged up. It didn't seem to matter that much on Monday night, but they're going to have to cover the tight end today. Here's the thing, guys. Geno Smith can really throw it. Like, I don't know about you. He's one of those quarterbacks that is very streaky, and if they give him time, he'll take shots. He's fearless. They've got speed, and Thornton, that 4th rounder from Tennessee, can really run. Linnell, he looks 4.3, 4.4 to me, legitimately.
Every bit of it.
You've got a great tight end. You've got a guy like Jacoby Myers, has been running underneath routes forever, bubbles forever. Like, they can get some chunk plays, but I feel good about the D-line and the pressure and the ability to stop the run. But if for whatever reason they don't get it today, that's where you end up with a really close game. Not bringing turnovers into the conversation is that, if you don't dominate the D line against their O line, then they will make some plays in the passing game. But I think there's a good chance that Kinlaw and company could have a good day.
Yeah, speaking of turnovers, is today the day where they finally force a turnover in 2025?
It'd be nice, because like I was thinking about it the other day, it's like, -2, you're in a dogfight that you may lose. Even, I think you win the game. +2, this is 34-14. So let's get on the right side of that. Washington hasn't turned the ball over either. 0 giveaways, 0 takeaways. But that is always, if not the most telling stat. If you haven't seen a final score to go to, it's certainly one of the top 2 or 3. And the way I see it today is, if you don't give the ball away, you're probably going to beat this team.
It seems like it's going to be that way. You mentioned team speed for the Raiders, and I think they've got it on the offensive side of the football. In terms of what Washington's trying to accomplish on defense, they want to play a lot of man-to-man coverage, and if you're not going to have pass rush getting behind your man-to-man coverage, it's going to be a struggle. Do you think they have the horses in the back end to play this style of defense? Because that's something I brought up this week. Maybe we may need some wholesale changes because they look slow.
I'll tell you what, I don't know how much you talked about this week, Linnell, because we only had really one day to talk about it. And that is, Joe Witt Jr. was incredibly sensitive the other day.
Yeah.
I think he's feeling it a little bit. We all guessed that this would be a big year for him. And last Thursday night was a disaster on the back end. And they didn't fool anybody, and Jordan Love made them pay for any mistake they made. I don't know if the Raiders can do that with their offensive line, but they do have playmakers, and today will be a test if you don't get to Geno Smith.
What's going on?
If you're well, first of all, you got to stop the run, which everybody's done against Genty so far in their first 2 games. Their first two games, certainly Monday night was tough against the Chargers, but yeah, it's not looked great so far.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be coming out of camp. The thing that everybody wanted to declare was a lot better. I do think the personnel's better. I do think that, but yeah, they got outcoached last Thursday night, both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
But they lost a lot of people in those situations, and eventually, the scheme and the play calling will bear some of the blame if it isn't already.
What's going on with Louvu? It feels like he's been a relative non-factor the first 2 weeks.
I don't think that may be true statistically, Denton, but I think he's still a factor. He missed a couple of tackles, in the first two games. He missed one in the Giant game. It was basically one of the only 2 or 3 tackles they missed in the entire game. But other than that, I think he is still, he's in the top 2 or 3. Maybe Kinlaw's emerging here through the first 2 games as their most disruptive player, but I still think Luvu's got a chance to have a big year. Today could be a really good day like the Giant game was for the defense, but they really have to get after Geno because Geno is capable if you give him time, and they've got receivers that can get open.
Kevin, 30 seconds. Give us a prediction. Who wins?
I think if Jaden were playing today, I think this would be one of those get-right games, or it would feel like it, and I think it would be an easy win with the Raiders off, Monday night, coming west to east, Washington having all the rest. But I still think even with Marcus, they get it done, something like 27-20. It'll be competitive unless they really dominate defensively like they did against the Giants. If they can have that kind of afternoon, it could certainly be a 27-10 kind of a game. But I'll go 27-20 Washington. They get to 2-1, and then the next 4 out of the next 5 are on the road.
Kevin, appreciate it as always.
Kev.
Enjoy this one. We look forward to your breakdown tomorrow.
All right, boys.
That is Kevin Sheen of the Kevin Sheen Show. When we get back, your bold predictions, our bold predictions, plus a player to lock in on. Don't go anywhere. It's the Burgundy Gold Pregame Show. It's the Burgundy and Gold pregame show with Denton Day and Linnell Willingham. Ben Standy going to join us in 10 minutes live from Landover. We'll get to some of your bold predictions in a moment. You can tweet us at the Denton Day at NELL_BTP, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can jot them down in the comments. But we're going to give first, Linnell, our player to lock in on. It's presented by Baldino's Lock and Key, your hometown security team for auto keys and fobs. Baldino's.com. As we are a little over an hour away from kickoff, who are you locking in on for the Commanders?
Can I cheat the system and just say the cornerback room? Marshawn Lattimore, Mikey Sanders still, Trey Amos. I mean, they got a lot of speed in this Vegas wide receiver room. Trey Tucker can fly. Dante Thornton can fly. Jacoby Myers, we know he's a pro. They got, targeted last week. They had some breakdowns in communication in terms of motion coming across the formation. How much better is their eye discipline coming up here this afternoon? And do we have the speed in the secondary to run with the wide receivers of Vegas? If they can run with them and not give up the explosives, I think we'll be fine.
So I'm going to go with our biggest storyline of the day.
Yeah.
The biggest storyline, if you're just joining us, is that Brandon Coleman is a healthy scratch coach's decision. That kind of stunned a lot of us, all of us, honestly. I didn't read anything before the game that said Brandon Coleman is not going to play today. So with that said, whoever is going to get the start at left guard, that is going to be my player to lock in on. We don't have that information yet. My guess is that we are going to find out together when the offense takes the field for the first time. It could be Allegretti. You have put out into the ether that it could be Chris Paul. Kevin Sheen was just with us. He said Chris Paul is a guy that they really like internally. I don't know who it is going to be at left guard, but whoever it is going to be my player to lock in on. They need to make sure that if they are replacing Brandon Coleman for whatever the reason is, we don't know, which is a coach's decision, they need to make sure that they handle their business. We cannot see what we saw last week against Green Bay, where Marcus Mariota is under duress from every single side today.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it starts with you having some balance offensively and not allowing Max Crosby. And I'm giving this kid some love, and I got to Sean Reed about it last week, our new Commanders beat writer for the Post, who was just in Vegas covering them with The Athletic. The 7th-round pick of the Colts from last year, Jonah Leilua, 3 sacks on the season as an interior defensive lineman. His last name is Leilua, and he's got the complexion of the Samoan. He's a badass.
Yeah.
He's a oos. He's somebody
oos.
that is going to have the ability to game wreck and penetrate here. Can they, block him and not allow him to game wreck as well as Max Crosby?
All right, let's get to some bold predictions.
Yeah.
We will get to yours on Twitter and in the YouTube chat in a matter of moments. I'm going to go first here, Linnell. I've been preaching this for the first hour of the show today. Washington not only gets a turnover, I think they get 2 of them. And I think one of them is going to come from Mikey Sanders still, Frozone himself. I think Mikey forces a turnover. I'm not going to specify or hold myself to a specification of an interception or a fumble. I don't really care. I just think he's going to force a turnover, and it's going to give Washington a short field where they then take advantage and go and score. But this is going to be the game where the turnovers finally start to come in the direction of Washington.
Just got word, by the way, will be Chris Paul via Nikki Javalis.
So it's going to be Chris Paul starting at left guard, not Allegretti. So Paul is going to be replacing Brandon Coleman today, who is out for coach's decision purposes.
As far as a bold prediction goes, it was my Monday morning headline Friday on the Burgundy and Gold today. 17 gives you 96 million reasons why. I think it is a big-time Terry McLaurin day. I think he goes for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns this afternoon. I think he establishes himself. He's going up against Caillou Blue Kelly, for God's sakes. Guy that was on the scout team a year ago.
Yeah.
He should have a big-time day.
That would be massive. Terry does not have, over the course of his career, a lot of multi-touchdown, 100-plus yard games. And I consider that to be an elite performance, so I would love it if he has an elite performance. I did also take him anytime touchdown at plus 200, so that does factor into that as well. All right, so here's some of your bold predictions on Twitter, and again, you can put them in the YouTube chat if you are watching us there. Our guy Bobby says that the defense is going to create 4 turnovers today. I would love 4. I'm just going to take.
4 would be amazing.
I'm taking 1 or 2, but if they can give 4 to the offense, I would gladly take 4. Our guy Sam says McNichols finds the end zone twice instead of Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt.
That happened last year.
Against Arizona. Yeah. 4th game of the season. So I think that's very possible. I think the carries are going to get split around. Someone tweeted at me, Sean, he says Bill gets – I don't know if this is meant to be a joke or not. I think it is one of those jokes that's a little too real, which makes it funny. Bill gets 9+ rushing attempts today.
Yeah, well, there we go. That's a hell of a bold prediction. He's got to. All the metrics say that he has been awesome through the first 2 weeks. We were looking at each other in the bar last weekend going, well, why the hell is this dude not getting the football?
Yeah.
He pulled up in a Sean Taylor throwback jersey today. So
Which throwback?
the one from '07.
The yellow?
The yellow,
Yeah.
with the yellow trim.
That one
So it
goes
was
so
a
great.
good look for him.
Rakish on Twitter or on YouTube says that Mariota is going to win NFC Offensive Player of the Week. That would be hilarious, honestly. I would love it, but that would be
Yeah.
hilarious.
It would be.
Sade says there's going to be a pick six today, and then Quinn Kingsbury says a special teams touchdown today for Washington. I would love that because, special teams, who takes back some of the kicks, Luke McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Luke McCaffrey anytime touchdown, anybody, 16-1. I would love something like that. What else I would love? Ben Standing, live from Landover. He's going to join us next year. He's Leno Willingham. I'm Denton Day. Don't go anywhere. It's the Burning Gold pregame show. About an hour away from kickoff here on 106.7 The Fan and the Team 980. It's your Burgundy and Gold pregame show with Denton Day and Linnell Willingham. Ben Standing is going to be with us in just a moment here. We're reacting to some big news. No Brandon Coleman today. He's a healthy scratch. And with a little bit more information, hopefully, on this is our guy, Ben Standing. So he joins us now. He is live in Landover. Ben, do we know a reason as to why Brandon Coleman is not going today?
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going?
What's going on, Ben?
Crazy, yeah. The guards shifting at both spots. I mean, Brandon Coleman definitely a surprise. I heard that you say you hope I could shed some more light on this. I wish I could. The only thing I could say is that earlier in the week, Coleman was banged up a little bit and was limited in practice, but he did practice as the week went on, so I didn't really think too much about it. But they're also telling us this isn't injury related, so I don't know. It seems, I mean, look, the whole line was not very good in the last game. I think we all can acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But to sit the guy, my argument for when people were saying sit Josh Connerly, I'm like, well, look, it's only his second game. He's only played 2 games in the NFL. It's once you start that clock, you can't just stop it immediately just because from a long-term perspective. I'd make the same argument to a degree for Coleman, right? I mean, he's only been the left guard now for 2 games, so pretty interesting if you're telling me it's not injury-related.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see, or hear rather, post-game from Dan Quinn if he sheds any light on that. I thought Chris Paul had a really good camp. He was a guy, Ben, and I don't know if you agree with me, when they first reported back in the spring, you just noticed a change in his body composition, a guy that was going into a contract year and needs to play well as a former 7th-round pick. So not totally surprised he's was good last week when they put him in. Brandon Coleman in pass pro has been a real issue to start the season, but the run blocking numbers speak to a guy that's ascending at the position. So I am surprised, just like you are. The other active over inactive that's kind of minuscule that no one's going to care about, Ali Cajo getting the elevation over draft pick Kane Madrano.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yes. I mean, that's if we're just talking about from that perspective, sure, it's a little confusing. I mean, I thought Cajo stood out to me during the preseason. He was a guy that I had on my final 53, and I think when you just look at their general profiles, Madrano's the speed guy. He was the fastest linebacker at the combine. He's more of a safety linebacker hybrid type. Had his draft profile was questions about his tackling. Cajo is sort of the opposite. He's like more of a traditional 4-3 outside backer. Both can help on special teams, but he is a much more like textbook tackler. I think we saw that late in some of those preseason games. And last week, look, we know they wanted to try to run more 4-3 when other teams are going with 12 and 13 personnel. Jordan McGee has been that guy, but Jordan McGee has barely played in these first 2 games, and that 57-yard pass last week to Tucker Kraft. I wrote about it this week.
Yeah.
The struggles against the tight ends, and my interpretation is that Jordan McGee maybe was supposed to keep running with Kraft and didn't. So I don't know if it's a reflection of that. In other words, if they want somebody in that spot, Cajo would make more sense than Madrano. Is basically my point.
Yeah, I agree.
Ben, do you think that Joe Witt is starting to feel a little bit of the pressure based off of last week?
I don't know. I would say no. Look, I know some people reached out to me this week and was like, hey, Joe Witt was kind of giving you grief in the press conference. Do you think that's a sign of something? A, I don't think he really was. It's just sort of how he is. But, like, B, it's too early. But, look, obviously all these guys are stressed out, I think, at all times. This is a fun job to have, except when you're doing it, I think.
Right.
It is crazy stressful, as we know. So I don't know if he's feeling that way. I mean, look, the defense today, we know that the offense is missing a lot of pieces. The defense is missing Dietrich Wise, but that's it. Like, they have no real excuses today from a production standpoint. And obviously the Raiders, they've got some talented pieces with Brock Bowers and Geno Smith's a fine quarterback, but this is not a juggernaut offense. They should be able to, control the game to a degree, especially if it's the version that showed up in week 1 against the Giants. If it's the version of last week, well, then there's a bigger problem. Then maybe then there is more pressure felt. But, that there's still a lot of depth on the defensive line. Same in the secondary, and you got Wagner and Louisville at linebacker. So there should be enough here to get this going, assuming that they really have made positive strides with the changes they made since last year, which I think they have. But we'll see. It's been a tale of two defenses so far in 2 weeks.
I totally agree with you. Flip into the offensive side of the football. Thursday night, you just didn't run it enough. And to me, the numbers to start the season in the run game have been good when you have had the attempts. How does John Bates being inactive this afternoon, do you think that limits their attempts at running the football?
Well, maybe not at running the football, but they don't have an obvious blocking tight end. I mean, if Ben Sinnott was going to be the guy, he would have played more than 3 snaps last week after Bates went out. I think they're probably going to use some 6 offensive lineman packages, like Trent Scott, I thought was going to be up this week, independent of all these other moves. That can't be a staple play,
right,
but it can be something that you go to here and there, especially if it's, sort of, I'm not just talking about 4th and goal or 4th and an inch.
Right.
I'm talking like it's traditional play. So they may end up having to do that. Now, again, I would think that this is why this whole thing is so weird. If without Bates, you might say run less. Okay, cool, but what do you that means throw more when you don't even know who's the other receiver opposite Terry McLaurin? I don't know that that's my plan either. So I think Corey Krosky-Merritt should get decent touches. I would think on early downs with Jeremy McNichols, the passing down kind of a guy, and Chris Rodriguez, filling in somewhere. I think you have to lean on the run game a bit. You've got to get that going. Bill is one of the bigger play guys they seem to have right now. So
right.
I think you lean on that, but you're right. Without Bates, it is a very different look. And how they adjust to that is going to be really interesting to see today.
What's your expectation for Mariota? First time we've seen him since the end of last year against Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously the guy we saw last year play came in was very effective in the two main relief appearances for Jade, led them to wins. He's been around the league. He should be fine. The only caveat is he basically didn't practice all summer, dealing with Achilles tendonitis. So he has been able to practice since training camp ended, but that's not the same thing as doing it all camp, all summer. He has, how much has he really worked throwing the ball to Deebo Samuel? Whatever he's only been getting in the last couple of weeks, but Jaden's been getting the reps with the one. So how much has he been throwing to him, to Jalen Lane, et cetera? So that's my only wonder is there any kind of a rust / chemistry limitations with some of these guys that he just has not worked with as much?
Yeah, totally agree. I think that's probably the most under talked about part of Marcus Mariota being the starter today. She just hadn't really had any training camp time, no time on task with these wide receivers. But for whatever reason, Ben, despite all those facts, I feel like he gets the offense kickstarted today. And I think targeting Terry McLaurin early and often should be a part of that plan. McLaurin's most targeted game last year was that Week 18 game against Dallas where Mariota played most of it. What are you expecting out of 17 today?
Yeah, I mean, it's a reasonable thought for sure that Mariota is one guy. He has, as Terry said to me on Friday when we knew officially Mariota was going to start, that that he has banked reps with Mariota, so yeah, I would think that Terry gets more involved. Obviously, he needs to in general. No matter who's a quarterback. After the first 2 games, Week 3 last year was the breakout game. Obviously, different circumstances, and because he missed all of training camp. But yeah, I would think Mariota looks his way a lot. I would think he goes to Zach Ertz as well. The other interesting thing will be without Austin Eckler, you take away that safety valve. Jeremy McNichols can do some of those things, but how comfortable does Mariota feel giving it to him? And then what does McNichols do with the ball once he gets it?
Right.
Eckler is not the fastest guy, but very subtle with his movements and able to make some plays. As we saw with yards after the catch, is that going to work as well? Messing Mariota last year, I mean, it's such a different group that he played with. All along the offensive line, the tight end, the receiver room, the running back room. So it's a very different group. It's not just completely plug and play because he wasn't with this group, but he was with the system.
Right.
So Ben, because Brandon Coleman is inactive, he has taken a lot of the notoriety, but no Noah Brown today as well. Who do you anticipate is going to get a majority of that wide receiver 3 snaps?
I mean, this is the problem. I have no earthly idea. like Chris Moore would be like the easiest call, right? He was the guy that was getting, when Terry was out of training camp, he was the guy who was often in there with the ones, he's 32. He's been around the league. He did have the 37-yard catch last week, but, there's also a reason why he's sort of in this, end of the roster practice squad range. You want to tell me Jalen Lane? Okay, cool, except that I like Jalen Lane, but at 5'10", that's not the size you typically want to go with an outside receiver, and that's what they would be asking him to do. And then, so that leads you to Luke McCaffrey. The ideal scenario is he's the guy who steps up, who is able to, become a viable threat for them. I mean, he's got the good size, obviously, the draft investment, et cetera. And he did have a 19-yard catch last week and a 2-point conversion from Jaden. So, maybe it's him ultimately, but again, he's got to get open. And if we didn't just see that enough this summer, maybe it changes when the games are live. But yeah, sure. I throw a dart at those three guys and hope. I don't know.
For sure. So the thing about Luke McCaffrey is he has been billed as this slot guy. So whenever we see Noah Brown go out, I never think it's more for Luke because they feel like they like him more as a slot guy than an outside guy. Chris Moore is someone that had a big catch against the Giants. It's going to be interesting to see which way they ultimately go with the football. We get a prediction from you as you're on your way out, Ben. How do you think this afternoon goes? Josh Harris told someone on the record that he expects the team to go to 2-1 today. So are you agreeing with the managing partner?
Well, I mean, look, putting aside all the X's and O's, if this is a real contender team, if they're going to show that last year wasn't just some sort of weird combination of things that happened that led to that, they should win this game. I mean, the Raiders are, I'm not dismissing their talent in certain spots, but they're not the most talented team. They've given up a lot of yards in the passing game. And, the rest travel situation is very, very real. Washington hasn't played since a week ago Thursday, and the Raiders played a late Monday night game this week that had to travel across the country. There's a lot of advantages here for Washington. So I would say Washington wins something along the lines of like 20-16, a rock fight kind of a game. But if they don't, I'm not so much worried about them dominating the Raiders because they're missing a lot of stuff. But they better. It's not a must win, but it's a don't lose game is how I've been phrasing it.
It's as close as you could get to must win in the last week of October or last week of September for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, also look, the schedule just gets a lot harder as we know, and the Raiders right now on paper, other than the Dolphins, are probably the easiest team they have on the schedule. So, at home, all those factors they should win. I think they do, but on offense in particular, a lot of variables all of a sudden.
Ben, appreciate the time as always. Enjoy this one.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
That is Ben Standig. He was live from Landover giving us the breakdown there. So before we get to the Junkies, Linnell, they're coming up here shortly.
Yeah.
You had mentioned this during one of the breaks, and I want to get to this because I do think it is important. Marcus Mariota is starting today for Washington. There was some hope, it felt like, in the beginning of this week that maybe Jaden Daniels' knee would be okay and he'd be good to go for Las Vegas. And then you stumbled across a report from Jeremy Fowler that suggested that was never really in play.
Not the audio, but this is a quote transcribed by our pals over at Hogs Haven. Jaden Daniels is out for this week, and it really wasn't even close, which begs the question, what is he looking like for week 4? So I checked with a source over there who said it's just too early to tell on that knee sprain. They want to see how he responds. I did recently talk to tight end Zach Ertz. He told me that Marcus Mariota, the backup, is literally like a starting quarterback. He's one of the best 32 in the world, so it leaves him in a good spot. They feel like they can win with Mariota at least for the week until they get Daniels back. I said this on Wednesday on the Burgundy and Gold today, looking at the schedule. If I am Washington, wasn't never going to play him this week. Atlanta's defense next week. If he wasn't close this week, I'm not pushing it next week. I don't want him flying across country. He's going to fight like hell, though, to play in L.A. against the Chargers in 2 weeks. I know he's going to scratch and claw. But I tell him to sit his ass down and come back Monday Night Football against the Chicago Bears when you have more time to get prepared. You can survive life with Marcus Mariota if the other guys play up to par.
I would be open to having him play against Los Angeles. I know that game's going to be an important one for him. I don't think that should be the defining factor into whether or not he goes.
Right.
But I'd be open to seeing him go against Los Angeles. But I have no issue with them being cautious here. I fielded a bunch of tweets. I'm sure you fielded a bunch of calls on this, comparing it to last year with the rib situation. And I get on a surface level why that comparison exists, but if you just dig an inch deep, you realize this is not the same thing. You have to be cautious with a knee. Yeah. You have to. You cannot allow a guy to go out there and injure himself even worse than he already is on a part of the body that it is very easy to injure yourself with. At least with the rib, there were ways of protecting that in a way that's very difficult to protect with a knee. And then, like, as fans, we understand the RG3 trauma from 13 years ago. I don't know that anyone in the building necessarily cares about that because most of the people in the building
Nor
were not
should they.
around in 2012. And you're right, nor should they. But you just have to be cautious with Jaden, understanding the style that he plays. And I do think there might need to be a slight adjustment to that. But just also the understanding of we need to make sure that he is healthy and he is good to go for the long term here, not just for a short term game against Las Vegas or really any time before they take on the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, totally agree. I just wouldn't push it. It's just not necessary. I think his long term health is super duper important. And then here's the thing: even when he does come back, and why I'm okay with him not coming back, not even that I'm okay with it. Scratch that. I'm demanding that he is not back until he is 110% because the play style doesn't need to change. Cliff just can't drop him back 48 times.
48
You know what I'm
times.
saying? Because he's going to scramble.
I do think he needs to be a little bit more comfortable with some windows. Like I did think Terry had some
Yeah,
plays
he
where
didn't
he
see
was
it well
open.
last week.
He didn't see it the best in the world, but you're right. Like you have to run it with somebody other than Jaden Daniels.
Exactly,
Like this is why you lean on the running back. So we wanted to make sure you guys had that report. When we get back, you will hear from the sports junkies, and we will continue to discuss the plan for Washington now that Brandon Coleman is not going to go on the offensive line. He is Linnell Willingham. I am Denton Day. It is the Burgundy and Gold pregame show on 106.7 The Fan and the Team 980. It's the Burgundy Gold pregame show. Denton Day and Linnell Willingham on 106.7 The Fan and the Team 980. If you're just joining us, you will not see Brandon Coleman today. He is a healthy scratch. It was dubbed as a coach's decision. Not great. That's a bad look. We don't know what the reason is, but when it's a coach's decision, it's usually not a good reason. So we're going to have to get a little bit more information on that, hopefully before the end of the game. It'll be Chris Paul starting in place of Brandon Coleman. Let's hear from the Junkies, Leno. How about that? You want to hear from the Junks? I want to hear from the Junks. Let's hear from the.
That almost came off the wrong way. But we're maneuvering some things around here.
We're maneuvering. I mean, the Brandon Coleman thing is a little shocking. I just don't think anyone anticipated that. So let's hear the Junkies, their breakdown, their preview. Can Marcus Mariota get a dub?
All right, boys. Commanders host the Raiders in Week 3, and the game looks different than we expected. No Jaden Daniels under center. It's Marcus Mariota. I have confidence in Mariota. I don't know about you guys. Mariota last year against Carolina, 18 for 23, 205 yards,
it's
2
Carolina.
touchdown passes.
Carolina was
so
terrible.
bad. Against Dallas in the second half.
They were terrible.
15 for 18, $161, 2 touchdowns. Finished the year with 4 touchdowns, 0 picks, and limited work. I don't think he's great, but I think he's plenty good enough to get a win.
I really don't know how to feel about this because he's a veteran, but he hasn't started since 22. I know he played a couple of times last year, but he didn't start since 22. But he has had all week working with the ones, and he is a vet. Didn't play in the preseason. Kind of scares me a little bit. I think he's going to do enough, but I still believe Terry McLaurin has to come out, and he's got to be the guy like he was last year in the passing game.
On the other side, I need to know which Geno Smith is on the airplane. Is it bad Geno Smith, the one we saw against the Chargers on Monday night? Mm-hmm. Is that the one that's making the trip, or is it the one that looked pretty good in Week 1 against the Patriots? Hopefully it's bad Geno Smith.
We got to pressure him.
Here's the ball. I don't want it. Please take it. Turned it over 3 times against the Chargers. If the Commanders can force pressure on him and make him make mistakes throughout the game, I think the Commanders have a good shot at winning the game. But if Geno's out there dealing like he was in Week 1 against the Pats, then you got a game on your hands, which you don't want against, let's be honest, an inferior opponent.
We got to produce the football. That's what Joe Witt always talks about. Dan Quinn always talks about that. So you got to pressure Geno, make him throw you the football. But, man, if Mariota is, in fact, playing today, hold your nose, buddy. He played great last season, but this is a guy who lost his job in Tennessee. He lost his job with the Raiders. He lost his job in Atlanta. He barely played, obviously, in Philly, just backup duty there, Jalen Hurts. So I watch this game, and I hold my nose. If we're true NFC title contenders, if we're true Super Bowl contenders, you beat the Raiders, regardless who's your quarterback. But if Marcus is our quarterback, it's going to be a fight, and it's going to go to the end. It's going to be a close game.
Maybe I'm too high on Marcus irrationally. I interviewed him for my book, Faith Restored.
You're biased.
He chose to come back to Washington. He didn't even really look at other spots, and he could have made more money. Maybe he could have competed for a starting job. But he really likes this system. It fits him well. And he wasn't a bad quarterback, even though he lost his jobs in some of those spots. I think he can lead them to a win. And then if you look at the Raiders' defense, points per game, they've only given up 16.5 points per game. But they're number 19 in yardage. Their defense is mediocre. Their offense is mediocre. They were 4-13 a year ago.
Different coach, a lot of different players. I can't really compare them to last year.
I'm not buying into the Raiders being significantly better. Genty so far has started off very slow, 81 yards in 2 games. I think Washington's going to take care of business at home. With Marcus Mariota, maybe I don't like the spread as much. Even if he commits a turnover and throws a pick, I'm going to take Washington 27-24.
Defensively, I guess where they rank in terms of yardage, they're not great, but they got to Drake May 4 times. He's a versatile quarterback.
Right.
He can run. So Mariota's got to be careful. All right, don't turn the ball over. Scoot out of the pocket, gain your yards. So I think defensively they still could cause problems for Marcus, but I do think that he'll make enough plays. Terry will make enough plays. Debo will make a few plays. They win 24-20.
I think the Commanders win 21-13. They're not going to get close to 28 or 30 points, but they score just enough to win. Your offensive MVP in this game is Debo Samuel. I can't believe Jason called him fat and out of shape before the season. That was weird that he did that.
That's a fib.
With Mariota, we squeak out a win. I don't even know how you get to this number, but 22-21. Literally a squeaker.
All right.
22-21.
I don't even know how that works.
How about 5 field goals, a touchdown, and a 2-point conversion?
Just a 2-point somewhere.
Is that math right?
I don't know. Maybe. Just a
think
2-point
so.
conversion somewhere.
5 field goals is 15 points.
Oh,
plus
it's just
a touchdown
touchdown.
is 7.
Oh, you don't need the
22.
2 point.
Oh, Matt
Matt
Gay.
ain't hitting 5 field goals.
Probably
As
not.
long as they're at 35 yards, he will.
All right, that's how we see it. Back to you, boys.
As long as they're 35 yards.
As the Junkies, I would be in agreement there. I don't know that I would want Matt Gay to even attempt 5 field goals.
That would probably
Five is a lot. Credit to him. 5 is a lot. I don't know that there's a lot of people that I would want to attempt 5 field goals, but he is definitely he's not one of them.
He's not one of them.
Their kicking game is not good.
Did you see Young Ho Koo got cut by the Falcons?
I did.
Their career points leader, which is like nuts.
That is kind of nuts. You interested? If things don't go well today, for him, they can still go. Like they can still win the game, and he just misses a bunch of kicks. But are you interested in Young Ho Koo?
We'll keep it as appropriate as possible. There have been some jokes on the internet.
There have been some jokes.
Let's just say I'm all in for Mr. Koo. You can give me some Koo.
I mean, a guy that has had a lot of success elsewhere is at least worth a look. If Matt Gay has more issues, they've been committed to him through 2 weeks, but look, man, we've seen like 6 kickers in the Adam Peters, Dan Quinn era, so I don't know that commitment is going to be long standing. A certain somebody predicted a win today for Washington. He said it with his entire chest. You'll hear who that was when we get back here. We got predictions coming your way in about 20 minutes. He's Leno Willingham. I'm Denton Day. Don't go anywhere. It's the Burning Gold pregame show. It's the Burgundy and Gold pregame show. Denton Day and Linnell Willingham with you on 106.7 The Fan and the Team 980. A programming reminder, if you have not caught on through the first 2 weeks of the season, at halftime, we are going to be live on Twitter and YouTube. It is the only commercial-free halftime show that is all Commanders. So you don't have to watch silly little highlights of games you don't care about that Fox puts on. You get to just listen to Commanders content. So come back with us. We started the 2-minute warning on both Twitter and YouTube. Linnell, so we've been talking today. This is a big game for Washington. No Jaden Daniels. Marcus Mariota going to be starting quarterback. We found out about an hour ago that there is no Brandon Coleman today either. It is a coach's decision, healthy scratch, and Chris Paul is going to be starting in favor of Brandon Coleman. Does that impact the way that you view the offense and the expectations you have for Washington today?
I mean, it has to, right? I mean, when you have that type of change, if you looking at from a holistic view, all right, no Jaden, no Noah Brown, no Coleman, no Allegretti. You have 5-6 new starters right now on offense. So, yeah, I think there's going to be some hiccups potentially, but I just think you're the better football team. You got to establish yourself on the ground. I think it makes it more important that you establish yourself on the ground. Can Chris Paul and Andrew Wiley get movement in the run game? I know Ben Standig spoke about this. I talked about it last week, knowing that, what was it, on Wednesday? The DQ was like, yeah, probably going to be a long shot for Noah and Bates. I immediately thought, well, do you play 6 offensive linemen more than you would traditionally?
Right.
To supplement that. And Ben Sinnott is a guy that I'm just begging to step up. He's played, you're a second-round draft pick, 53rd overall. You played 11 snaps in the first 2 weeks.
Not good.
It's just not very good.
We talked a lot about him last year with the RAS score and all of these. Wow, he's so athletic. And,
use check.
He's going to be the use check. He's going to be starting over Ertz by week 6 and all these things. And 11 snaps in 2 weeks.
Not very good. Colson Yankoff is another cat. I'm wondering, does he get more opportunity today? And if he does, I think it's such an indictment on Ben Sinnott. But
I would agree with that.
I just think
you think they'll use McNichols a little bit more to help with that because he feels like the superior of the running backs in terms of the pass blocking.
Yeah, and Cliff was pretty real about why Bill hasn't played more this past week. For simply saying he needs to be better without the football, meaning struggles with blocking. We were watching him play last week when Jaden threw the ball drastically behind him, and you were like, "Yeah, I think he was supposed to sit."
Yeah,
he was.
He just didn't. He didn't read it correctly.
So
the way
yeah,
that you needed
him
to.
playing without the football, it's got to get better in that area. But I think he's going to get the chunk of the workload today. Raiders rush defense, mixed bag throughout the season. Did really good last week against the Chargers. So I just think we're as a whole sleep on the Raiders. I will say that. Just hearing how folks have spoke about them and their defense in particular, like they got some dudes on defense now. They have 7 at least.
They have one of the best defensive ends in the game with Max Crosby. Now, he's not Micah Parsons. That is very, very clear. He's not Micah Parsons, but he's still really, really good. And you got to be able to prepare for him, especially knowing that he's going to see a lot of Josh Connerly because there's just no way you're not going to put your best player on defense over the rookie. You're not going to be like, hey, we're actually going to be really confusing and mysterious, and we're going to put him on Laramie Tunsil instead. You're just then nullifying your best players. So they're going to put him on Connerly. You got to have some sort of plan in place. You sent me this video. We gave it to producer Ben, and I want to play it for you. We are in the business of predictions.
Yeah.
Josh Harris is apparently coming for our job. Listen to Josh Harris with Steve Weish of NFL Network prior to the game here.
All right, so until then, we've got now. And today, of course, your quarterback, Jaden Daniels, is not going with the knee injury. What's your thoughts on today's game with the Raiders?
Yeah, look, I think this is one of we should win this game. Marcus has been around the NFL a long time, very respected quarterback. Team supports him and respects him, and we're going to be 2-1 after this game.
Okay.
So what is worse, Linnell? Josh Harris doing media availability an hour before the game, or Josh Harris definitively saying we should be 2-1 after this one, writing the book and saying this is a win?
Well, Steve, Jaden being out, we think we have a really good shot, and Marcus is going to help us win. That's basically what I wanted to hear from him. I love this. I think Josh has done no wrong. Here's one thing I will say about Josh. We got the news this week about the team officially going back to RFK.
Yes.
pull a Wizards. The Wizards got their 529 plan rolling out this year for home games. Josh Harris needs to do something in 2030 to make those tickets affordable for people. He can do no wrong in my eyes. I wouldn't care if he even gave a score prediction. He is Josh freaking Harris, the savior of Washington football. He's got it. He's got it. Whatever he wants goes.
Jaden is the savior, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yes.
I am generally just a little on edge.
It's like the Bible, Dan. There are several key figures throughout the Bible. Josh
key
Harris.
characters.
You know?
I am just generally a little weary of when guys start doing more media.
Certainly.
I don't think that one media hit ahead of a game in September is going to make him Jerry Jones. But I am perfectly fine if he does not get in front of a microphone for the rest of the year. Unless it's at like a business conference.
Yeah.
If he wants to get in front of a microphone at a business conference, he can do that. I think that's justified. He's carved out a nice little lane for him there. Now, granted, I did not want him to be like, I think we're going to lose. That would be way worse. So he has to say that, but I'm just, the idea of him doing media, because he's a friendly dude, he seems friendly. I don't know him, but he seems friendly. I was just a little on edge about that. You sent that to me, and I was like, oh, this is new. We haven't seen this before.
Yeah, it was different. I know Josh likes to have a good time. I know that he cares a lot. I know that he means well. If they lose, that clip, over under, if they lose, how many times is it played next week?
That's going to be that's not going to be played just here. That's going to be played on the mothership.
Yeah.
That's going to be played on NFL Network. That's going to be played on CBS Sports HQ.
Yeah.
That's going to be taken up by the 33rd team.
Yeah.
That's going to be taken up by Polymarket Football. Taylor Mathis might throw it.
Polymarket drop is very underrated.
I mean, she might throw it in her walking bet. Like, it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be an insufferable clip. So they have to now go win. Like, there's the owner put the pressure on you. You have to go win. Part of that is going to be establishing the run. Marcus Mariota played twice last year, and he was really good in the 2 games that we saw him in. It was really 1.5 games, but he played in 2 games because he was in the second half of that final Dallas game, and then he took over for Jaden after the Carolina Panthers game. Yeah. This is the first game in the Jaden era where Jaden Daniels is not available for Washington. They need to make sure that they make Mariota's job as easy as possible. I need them to run the football, and I need them to commit to running the football. The Raiders have not allowed a running back, they have not allowed a running back to rush for 30 yards. They did allow one quarterback, that being Justin Herbert. He ran for 31 yards. They are really good against the run in the first 2 weeks of the season. I am terrified that Cliff is going to try and run the ball in the first quarter. It's not going to go exceptionally great, and then he's going to give up on it and drop Mariota back like 45 times.
If he does that, I've already been having some on-air conversations with Cliff, by the way. If he does that, I'm going to make that the clip that gets clipped off.
I mean, that would be, no excuse. You can't drop Mariota back 45 times.
But here's the thing, though, and a caller said this, during the week, like, this was a problem with him last year, like getting away from the run too soon, not being totally committed to it. And we talked about it down the stretch, the traditional running game going away and Jaden Daniels having to run more. They just got to get better in that area. And I think there's got to be a mentality change for Cliff to understand that, like, hey, 4 yards is okay.
Do you imagine that Bill's going to get a majority of the carries, or do you think there's going to be a rotation where it's relatively balanced?
I think it's going to be relatively balanced. I just don't know if you're Cliff, like, if J-Mac is better at all of the other things.
Yes.
He may get the start. I wouldn't be surprised if he got the first snap.
Yeah, starts I'm not really concerned with, to be honest. Yeah. Like, that's more of that feels like service level pride stuff. Like, yeah, I got to start a game. I don't really care about that. I want it to be balanced, but I want to see Bill. We've talked a lot about him. He's been like the thrill of the offseason this year in what was, outside of the Terry contract, a relatively quiet offseason. Let's give him the football. Don't wait a quarter and a half until he touches the ball for the first time. Make it early and often. Hey, we're going with the young guy. We love his vision. We love his athleticism. We love the way that he hits the hole. We're going to give it to the young guy. I fear that they're going to get maybe a little too cute and kind of do what you just mentioned here. Well, we're going to start McNichols here. And then you might see Chris Rodriguez first. And then you'll see Bill. Like, just be simple about it, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Just be simple about it. Give the best runner of the football early and often.
Yeah, for sure. And I think with Chris Paul and Wiley at guard, I wonder if there's any drop off in the run game because Brandon Coleman had been good for the most part as a run blocker.
Very good as a run blocker, which does make him sitting today all the more curious because it's not a health thing. It is a coach's decision that he is going to sit. We haven't been given any details as to what led into that decision. We just know it was a coach's decision.
Yeah, there's some photo from our guy from NBC4, our guy Decker, smiling, all smiles on the sideline. It's not like he's been punished or anything. I think it's just we think the other guy's better than you right now decision. One thing you sleep on.
It's a tough look.
We're in the all burgundy. Last time we wore all burgundy at home, Pittsburgh. Yuck.
Yeah, that was not a great one. I don't mind the all burgundies though.
Yeah,
to be
they
honest.
cool. I hated them when we were younger. They always spell bad news. They did, seriously.
They
against
did.
the Steelers too. So.
Yeah, against the Steelers too. But I don't feel too bad about the uniform thing. All right, when we get back, we will make our final predictions. Who wins, and then who has the best game for Washington to potentially lead to a win. He is Linnell Willingham. I am Denton Day. It is Burgundy and Gold pregame on the Team 980 106.7 The Fan. It's the Burgundy and Gold pregame show. Denton Day and Linnell Willingham on 106.7 The Fan and the team 9 to 80. We are about 12 minutes away from kick, Linnell. This is a very big game for Washington.
12 minutes away.
1-2 is a tough look on the record.
It's ugly.
It's an ugly look. There's no good way to stomach that. You know, Jaden's not playing today. It's going to be Marcus, but still, you don't want to go 1-2. 2-1 is a big time, a much better look to have. What needs to happen for Washington to get there before we give our predictions?
You just got to be tougher than you were on Thursday night. I thought like Green Bay was the aggressor on both sides of the football. I thought you got punched in the mouth up front, and it's going to sound cliche. I'm going to say it each and every week, so like put on a T-shirt. You have to win the battle of the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. Can your defensive line recreate the line of scrimmage? Can your offensive line get movement and allow you to get some confidence in the run game? But honestly, you know who I'm looking at? And I'm always a proponent of, like, if the play works if you execute it. Cliff Kingsbury, Joe Witt Jr., with 10 days to prepare, how much better is your plan? Because, quite frankly, your plan last Thursday sucked.
Not good.
Can you be better this week?
They need to be. They need to be more committed to running of the football. And I think if you're Joe Witt Jr. in specific, I'm going to look at him. You got to be aggressive.
Yeah.
If you're not getting pressure with 4, and it's going to be tough now, you know, your lineup is not as good as it really wasn't all that spectacular week number 1.
Not really.
But you lose Dietrich Wise. Von Miller is 36 years old. It's unrealistic to think that you're getting anything close to prime Von Miller. Use Frankie Louvu a little bit more.
Yeah.
Use some guys off of the edge, corner-wise, a safety blitz. Like, get aggressive on defense. The nice thing about Geno Smith is that he will put the ball in harm's way.
He is very generous.
He is very generous. He was very generous against Los Angeles. Now, the Chargers' defense is pretty solid, but he was very generous against Los Angeles. If he is going to be in a season of giving, you better be in a season of taking the ball away. Yeah. I need a turnover today from Joe Witt's defense. I think that'll give him a nice sigh of relief, but it'll give the defense a nice sigh of relief too, because they did not play well. That looked on Thursday night against Green Bay, it looked a lot more like the defense that we saw in the previous regime, where the tight end is wide open, where no one can seemingly make a play. Whenever they do make a play, there's a penalty. I want to see good quality, sound defense, much more like we saw week number 1 than we did week number 2. And again, I need a turnover. Who is going to force the first turnover of the season? I don't care if it's a pick. I don't care if it is a fumble recovery. I am not picky. Just somebody give me a turnover so you can give the offense a short field and not make the backup quarterback get into a point where he is consistently having to go 60, 70, 75, maybe even 80 yards every single drive to come away with some form of points.
I agree with you. So the turnover thing is huge. I know we were talking about this in real time last Thursday, like the idea of Joe Witt being more aggressive. And when I went back and crunched the numbers, I was stunned. They blitzed on 50% of the snaps and ended up being in the game. And, like, that's kind of a high number, but, like, their execution of the blitzes weren't good. I thought they weren't creative blitzes.
Yeah.
You can't just think you can blitz Louvu and Wagner every time and it's going to work. Send me Will Harris. Send me Mikey Samers still. So, and then I think the timing of it, we didn't see it till the second half when things were kind of trending in the wrong direction.
Right.
So, yeah, pressure is going to be huge in this one. I think this offense, though, like, let's go. I don't care that the quarterback's out.
No.
I don't. Like, you have better personnel than they do on defense.
Get right.
Just get right.
Get right. Get into a rhythm offensively. You know, the nice thing about Marcus and Jaden is at the very least, Marcus is like Jaden Daniels light in terms of some of the things
Walmart,
that he can do.
Great value, JD5.
Like, there's not a drastic shift in the way that you're going to call plays. There's not a drastic shift in the way that Marcus Mariota plays compared to Jaden Daniels. Both have mobility. Yeah. Both can be really, really good with their arm. Both can be good decision makers. So you got to get right. You got to enter week number 4 with a lot of momentum off of a really successful week against the Las Vegas Raiders. Here's the one play that I'm going to give out for sure, Linnell. Terry McLaurin is scoring a touchdown today. You can get him anytime touchdown at 2-1 at most sports books. Terry is going to score a touchdown today with a backup quarterback coming in that did not have the entire offseason to build chemistry with Deebo Samuel the way that Jaden did, because he just wasn't getting as many reps with Deebo. And then Marcus Mariota towards the end of training camp had some injury issues, so he wasn't getting reps with a lot of guys. He is going to look for the number 1 wide receiver. That is obviously Terry McLaurin. Terry needs a good game too. He has not played exceptionally well compared to the standards of which his contract suggests he should in the first 2 weeks of the season. I need a big day from 17. I think he gets into the end zone at least once. So I got him at plus 200 to score a touchdown.
You're going plus 200. I got to play for plus 280 on the defensive side of the football. The interior offensive line for the Las Vegas Raiders, not very good. They had a couple of guys on the injury report earlier this afternoon. Jackson Powers Johnson at guard, not very good. Jordan Meredith at center. Dylan Parham, not good. Deron Payne, they record a sack, is plus 280. I think that's something you may want to sprinkle some cash on. Deron Payne getting another quarterback.
All right, give me a prediction. We got about a minute or so left here. Give me a prediction.
My Monday morning headline, I think, is going to read 17, gives you 96 million reasons why. I think Washington bounces back, and Terry McLaurin has a big day with Marcus Mariota at quarterback. I think the defense, while it isn't perfect, I think they make some plays. Give me Washington 23-18.
23-18, they cover. That's what that means. I think it's going to be a little bit more high scoring because I do think that Vegas is going to have some success offensively, but I think Washington with Marcus Mariota is going to have some success offensively as well. Washington is going to win this, Linnell, by a score of 27-25. So it's going to be close. I do think it's more of a backdoor cover than like a late Washington win where Vegas just gets a score late in the ball game. But I'm going to take the Commanders to jump to 2-1, and I do think they force at least 2 turnovers. Reminder, join us at halftime on Twitter and on YouTube. He is Linnell Willingham. I am Denton Day. Enjoy the game. We'll see you in about an hour and a half for the halftime show.